Most people think living on the beach means winning the lottery or selling a kidney. But in a few hidden US towns, you can get ocean views for less than the price of a used Honda Civic. They're real homes, real beaches. And locals aren't shouting about it, because once the secret's out, prices jump and the charm disappears. By the time we hit number 3, you'll wonder how it's even legal. Like this before the algorithm buries it, and let's dive in. Ucked along Florida's forgotten coast, Port St. Joe feels like the kind of place a Nicholas Sparks character would retire to after the big plot twist. It's small, quiet, and shockingly cheap for a town with white sand and emerald water. Median home price? Around $280,000. That's less than half of what you'd pay in Miami and lower than the national coastal average. Even rentals can hover under $1,200 a month if you catch them in the off-season. For a beachfront escape, that's basically pocket change compared to Key West. Imagine this: you're sitting on a weathered wooden porch, glass of sweet tea in hand, watching pelicans skim across the Gulf. The air smells like salt and sunscreen, and the only traffic jam is when someone stops their golf cart to chat with a neighbor. Port St. Joe isn't some manufactured beach resort. It's a working waterfront town with a fishing history. Locals wave as you pass. There's a Saturday farmers market, and yes, you'll start recognizing the same 3 people at every cafe. Quirky touch? The town has annual scallop season, where residents wade into the shallows with buckets like it's a competitive sport. The trade-off: nightlife is non-existent. If your idea of fun is a silent stroll under the stars, you're golden. If you need a craft cocktail bar with a neon sign, you're in the wrong zip code. And hurricanes? Yep, they've been hit before, which keeps prices low, but it also means you better get friendly with flood insurance. Still, for the cost of a bland condo in a crowded city, you could have a pastel beach house with the Gulf at your doorstep. If you think this is affordable, wait until you hear about the Texas town in number 2, where the sunrise comes with shrimp boats and the smell of fresh biscuits. If Port St. Joe is quiet southern charm, Rockport is its artsy Gulf Coast cousin, the one who wears flip-flops to gallery openings. This small harbor town sits just north of Corpus Christi, and it's got 2 things going for it: salty breezes and shockingly low real estate prices. Median home price? Around $290,000, which is wild considering you're a 5-minute drive from soft sand beaches and warm Gulf waters. For comparison, that's less than a third of what you'd pay for something similar in Galveston. And here, you can actually park for free at the beach without battling a wall of tourists. Picture a morning in Rockport. Pelicans perched on dock posts, shrimp boats gliding back from the bay, and an elderly man selling homemade kolaches from a cooler in the back of his pickup. The streets smell faintly of salt and smoked brisket, a combination that should be illegal but isn't. Rockport's not just about beaches. It's got a surprisingly rich art scene. There's a monthly art walk, vibrant murals on downtown walls, and more than a dozen galleries for a town this size. Locals say the sunsets over Little Bay are so good they make you forget your ex's name. The trade-off? Hurricanes are a real threat. Hurricane Harvey hit hard here in 2017, but the community rebuilt, and that resilience keeps Rockport's personality intact. Also, nightlife is mellow. We're talking beach bars with acoustic guitar sets, not DJs and neon shots. Still, if you want Gulf Coast living without the Galveston price tag, Rockport is that rare mix of affordable and postcard pretty. And if you think a Texas beach town with art galleries is unusual, wait until number 3, where wild ponies actually roam the shoreline. Most beach towns brag about their seafood or sunsets. Chincoteague just casually mentions it has wild ponies trotting along the shore like it's no big deal. This barrier island on Virginia's eastern shore feels like stepping into a storybook, except the prices are real and shockingly reasonable. Median home price? Around $330,000, far less than nearby Outer Banks hotspots, and that's for actual houses, not cramped condos. Vacation rentals can dip under $1,000 a month in the off-season, which makes snowbirds giddy. Imagine this: salty breeze ruffling your hair, marsh grass swaying in the wind, and the sound of hooves on wet sand. These are the famous Chincoteague ponies, a herd that's been living here for centuries. Every July, locals round them up for the pony swim, a tradition that feels part carnival, part Wild West. The town itself is all small-town Americana. There's the Island Creamery, often ranked among the best ice cream shops in the country, bait shops that double as gossip hubs, and seafood shacks where the fried oysters are so fresh they might have been swimming an hour ago. Chincoteague also acts as the gateway to Assateague Island National Seashore, where you can bike through pine forests one minute and lounge on untouched beaches the next. The trade-off? Summer tourism spikes hard, picture lines at the ice cream shop that feel like Black Friday, and winters are quiet, like your neighbor is a heron, quiet. Plus, you'll need to love small-town living because the nearest big box store is a bit of a drive. Still, for the price of a suburban home in a landlocked city, you can wake up to a view that looks like it belongs on a painting. If wild ponies aren't enough to convince you, wait until number 4. A Mississippi town where the art scene is just as vibrant as the sunsets. Ocean Springs feels like the Gulf Coast's best-kept secret, a place where art galleries outnumber chain stores and the sunsets look like someone cranked the saturation to max. It sits just east of Biloxi, but it couldn't feel more different. No casinos, no neon chaos, just tree-lined streets and a walkable downtown dripping with charm. Median home price? Around $240,000, which is borderline shocking for a town on the water with this much personality. That's less than half the price of a similar property in Florida's beach markets. Rentals? You can still find decent spots under $1,000 a month if you look outside peak tourist season. Picture strolling through downtown on a Saturday. The air smells like espresso from a corner cafe. A blues guitarist plays outside a boutique, and someone's golden retriever is happily snoozing in the shade of a live oak. Pop into a shop, and you'll probably be greeted by the owner, who will remember your name next time. The town has a strong creative streak. It's home to the Walter Anderson Museum of Art, and you'll see his influence in the colorful murals splashed across buildings. And because it's right on the Gulf, fresh seafood is practically mandatory. Think shrimp po' boys so stuffed they barely close. The trade-offs? Summers are hot and humid enough to make your sunglasses fog instantly. And while the vibe is peaceful, you won't find big nightlife here. Entertainment leans toward live music on a patio rather than a booming club. Hurricanes are part of the reality too, which is why flood insurance is a must. But if you want a coastal town where the art scene is alive, the seafood is cheap, and the sunsets are priceless, Ocean Springs delivers. And if you thought Mississippi couldn't compete with the West Coast, wait until number 5, home to the longest continuous beach in the US. Long Beach is the kind of place that makes you double-check Google Maps, because yes, there really is a beach here that stretches for 28 miles straight, making it the longest continuous beach in the United States. It's not a tropical paradise. It's moodier, wilder, and utterly unforgettable. Median home price? Around $300,000, which is a steal compared to Oregon's coast, just a few hours south. You can find bungalows within walking distance of the sand for less than the cost of a cramped apartment in Seattle. Picture this: fog rolling in off the Pacific, the smell of salt and pine in the air, and the sound of waves blending with gull cries. A few hardy locals are flying kites so massive they look like they could carry off a small child. And yes, that's the famous Washington State International Kite Festival, which turns the beach into a rainbow sky every August. The town itself is small and unpretentious. There's a boardwalk that hugs the dunes, quirky antique stores, and diners serving clam chowder so thick your spoon stands upright. At low tide, you can drive your car right onto the beach, something that feels both thrilling and mildly illegal. Trade-offs? This is the Pacific Northwest, so sunny days are a bonus, not a guarantee. Winters can be grey and blustery, and the water's chilly year-round. If you're imagining a warm swim, you'll need a wetsuit or very questionable judgment. Still, for coastal living at a fraction of the usual price, with space to actually breathe, Long Beach is hard to beat. And if you think Washington's beaches are remote, wait until number 6, a Florida town that feels like a bohemian art village just minutes from a major city. If most Florida beach towns are like glossy travel brochures, Gulfport is the hand-painted postcard you find in a thrift shop. Quirky, colorful, and a little offbeat in the best way. Just minutes from the larger city of St. Petersburg, Gulfport is a tiny waterfront community with a bohemian streak a mile wide. Median home price? Around $350,000, which sounds high until you realize it's one of the few spots in the Tampa Bay area where you can still snag a cottage a short walk from the water for under $500,000. Rentals are surprisingly reasonable too, with off-season deals dipping well under $1,500 a month. Step onto Gulfport's brick-paved streets and you'll pass pastel bungalows with front-yard art installations, sidewalk cafes serving Cuban sandwiches, and shops selling everything from handmade jewelry to vintage surfboards. Twice a month, the Gulfport Tuesday Fresh Market takes over downtown, with stalls of local produce, fresh-baked bread, and the occasional street performer in a pirate hat. The beach here is small, more of a cozy bayfront than an endless shoreline, but the energy more than makes up for it. On the first Friday and third Saturday of each month, the streets fill with live music, food trucks, and artists selling work under strings of twinkling lights. Locals joke that Gulfport is where old hippies and young creatives meet over key lime pie. Trade-offs? If you want a sprawling, postcard-perfect beach, you'll have to drive a few minutes to St. Pete Beach. And because Gulfport's charm is no longer a complete secret, prices are creeping upward. Still, if you're looking for coastal Florida with personality instead of polish, Gulfport will steal your heart and probably convince you to buy a tie-dye shirt. And if you thought this was laid back, wait until number 7, a Mississippi town so relaxed, even the historic houses seem to be napping in the sun. Bay Street Louis is proof that small-town southern charm and affordable waterfront living can still exist in the same sentence. Perched on the Gulf of Mexico, this artsy little town is just an hour from New Orleans, close enough for a quick weekend in the city, far enough to keep its own slow, sunny rhythm. Median home price? Around $260,000, which feels almost suspicious when you see how close you are to the water. Rentals? You can still find cozy spots under $1,000 a month, especially off-season. That's beach-adjacent living for less than the cost of a basic studio in most big cities. Picture this: a pastel-painted historic home with a wrap-around porch, ceiling fans lazily spinning, and a view of oak trees dripping with Spanish moss. Down the street, you hear the clink of glasses from a waterfront cafe where someone's telling a story that gets funnier with every retelling. Bay Street Louis has an arts district brimming with galleries, antique stores, and quirky boutiques. On second Saturdays, the whole downtown comes alive with live music, food stalls, and locals spilling into the streets to greet friends they probably saw yesterday. The town motto could be, "If you're in a hurry, you're in the wrong place." Trade-offs? If you crave 24/7 action, this is not it. Nights here are for wine on the porch, not thumping bass. And while there's plenty of charm, amenities are limited. If you need a big shopping mall or a Whole Foods, you'll be driving. Still, for those who value community over convenience, Bay Street. Lewis feels like the kind of place you don't just visit, you stay. And if you think the Gulf Coast can't compete with classic New England charm, wait until number 8, a Maine beach town where lobster rolls cost less than lunch in Boston. If Bay Street Lewis is all about slow Gulf sunsets, Old Orchard Beach is pure nostalgic summer energy. Think boardwalk fries, saltwater taffy, and the sound of gulls arguing over a dropped French fry. Located just 20 minutes from Portland, Maine, it's a New England classic that somehow hasn't priced itself out of reach. Median home price? Around $340,000, a fraction of what you'd pay for waterfront property in Cape Cod or Martha's Vineyard. And while tourist season rentals climb fast, off-season deals can be shockingly low, especially for long-term stays. Picture a cool summer morning. You stroll down the 7-mile sandy stretch, coffee in hand, the Atlantic rolling in a steady rhythm beside you. The iconic pier juts out into the water, lined with shops selling fresh lobster rolls, arcade games blinking in the morning sun, and a bar where someone's already playing Sweet Caroline, because of course they are. Old Orchard Beach thrives on tradition. Families have been coming here for generations, riding the same Ferris wheel, eating the same fried dough, and renting the same beach cottages. There's a small-town familiarity to it, even if you're new. Trade-offs? Summer is busy, really busy. Parking becomes competitive, and you'll learn to love the sound of distant carnival rides. Winters, on the other hand, turn the place into a sleepy beach ghost town, with many businesses closing until spring. If you're staying year-round, you'll need to be comfortable with that seasonal rhythm. Still, for a slice of authentic New England beach life at prices that won't sink your budget, Old Orchard Beach is a rare find. And if you think Maine is too cold for a beach town vibe, wait until number 9, a Texas island where the sand is warm year-round and the sunsets look like they were painted in neon. South Padre Island has a bit of an identity crisis. It's famous for wild spring break parties, yet the rest of the year it's a surprisingly chill, affordable slice of tropical Texas. Tucked at the very southern tip of the state, it's closer to Mexico than most Texas cities, which means warm sand, balmy nights, and palm trees that look like they were plucked straight from a postcard. Median home price? Around $350,000, and condos often list well under $300,000. Compare that to Florida or California's beach markets, and it feels like cheating. Off-season rentals can drop below $1,200 a month, and yes, that's for a place where you can actually hear the ocean from your balcony. Picture the scene. You're walking along soft golden sand, the Gulf of Mexico stretching out like liquid glass, and dolphins occasionally breaking the surface in the distance. By evening, the sky explodes in shades of orange and hot pink over Laguna Madre, the kind of sunset that makes you want to stop talking mid-sentence. The island's year-round vibe is laid back, with fresh seafood shacks, beach bars serving frozen margaritas, and nature spots where you can kayak through glassy water. The water is warm enough for swimming almost all year, no wetsuit required. The trade-off? Yes, that spring break reputation is real, and March can be loud. But outside those few weeks, it's more retirees and families than party crowds. Hurricane season is also a factor, as with much of the Gulf Coast, and being on an island means limited escape routes during a storm. Still, for year-round beach weather at prices that don't require a millionaire's budget, South Padre Island is hard to beat. And if you think this list can't get any more unexpected, wait until number 10. A Florida town so remote, charming and cheap, it feels like it's been frozen in time. If most Florida towns are chasing the next big resort development, Apalachicola is happily stuck in the past, And that's exactly why it's magical. This historic fishing village sits on the state's remote, forgotten coast, where cell service is spotty, chain stores are non-existent, and life moves to the rhythm of the tides. Median home price? Around $280,000, a bargain for a waterfront community in Florida. Even charming, historic homes with wraparound porches can sometimes be found under $350,000. Off-season rentals drop under $1,200 a month, though you might be sharing the street with more shrimp boats than cars. Picture it, pastel clapboard houses shaded by massive live oaks, the air thick with the scent of salt water and frying oysters. Down by the docks, fishermen unload crates of Apalachicola world-famous oysters, while pelicans loiter like entitled customers. In the tiny downtown, boutique shops and bookstores sit beside old-fashioned soda fountains, and no one seems to be in a hurry. The town's charm lies in its authenticity. There's no manufactured beach resort vibe here, just a working waterfront and a deep connection to the sea. Locals swap stories over gumbo at the Owl Cafe. Kids ride bikes down quiet streets, and the loudest noise you'll hear at night is the distant hum of a boat engine. Trade-offs? You're remote. Tallahassee is 2 hours away, and there's no Uber when you miss your ride. Hurricanes are part of life here, and grocery runs require some planning. But for those who dream of real community and unspoiled beauty, it's a rare gem. And here's the thing, affordable coastal towns like this are disappearing fast. If you thought this list was surprising, wait until you see the places where towns will pay you to move there. So there you have it, 10 US beach towns where the sand is soft, the sunsets are unreal, and the price tags haven't caught up yet. But here's the thing, every year, more of these hidden spots get discovered, and once they do, the affordability vanishes faster than a beach chair in a hurricane. Which one would you move to? The pony-covered shores of Chincoteague, the 28-mile stretch of Long Beach, or maybe the oyster capital of Apalachicola? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this list, hit that like button, share it with someone who's dreaming of coastal life, and subscribe so you don't miss more hidden gems like these.